Hello, everyone, and welcome to your channel, Virgo. Thank you so much for being here. Your tendency to focus on what's directly in front of you, the tasks that need completing, the problems that need solving, the details that require your attention has created blind spots where significant activity is occurring without your awareness. And while you've been handling your responsibilities with characteristic thoroughness, people around you have been moving, planning, coordinating, making decisions that affect you. Operating in spaces you're not monitoring because you trust that if something important was happening, someone would tell you, but nobody's telling you. And that needs to change. This isn't paranoia. This is reality check for someone whose default mode is focusing intensely on immediate work while assuming everyone else is being as straightforward and transparent as you are. But not everyone operates that way. And right now, your assumption that you'd know if something significant was developing is wrong. Let me break down what's actually happening behind your back across different domains of your life. Professionally, conversations are occurring about you in spaces you're not present in. Your performance being evaluated, your future being discussed, your value being assessed by people who have power to affect your trajectory, but who aren't including you in those discussions. Maybe your boss and their superior are talking about promotions or restructuring, and your name is coming up positively or negatively, but you're not being consulted yet. Or colleagues are forming alliances that will affect team dynamics, project assignments, or political landscape of your workplace. And you're so focused on executing your actual work that you're missing the social maneuvering happening around you. Or someone is positioning themselves to take credit for work you're doing, not stealing it overtly, but subtly associating themselves with your successes in ways that make leadership believe they're more involved than they actually are. Virgo energy tends to believe that good work speaks for itself, that if you just do excellent job, recognition will follow naturally. But in real workplaces, visibility matters as much as competence. And while you're head down perfecting deliverables, others are head up managing perceptions. You need to look up, pay attention to who's talking to whom, what alliances are forming, what narratives are being constructed, what decisions are being made about your professional future that you're not part of. Let's pause here. This reflection invites you to consider whose behavior at work has seemed strategically social in ways that make you slightly uncomfortable even though you couldn't articulate why. Maybe colleague who's always in boss's office for quick chats that seem too frequent to be just about work, or person who volunteers for visibility projects while delegating actual execution to others, or teammate who's suddenly very interested in understanding exactly what you're working on and how. That's not friendly curiosity. That's intelligence gathering or positioning. And you need to recognize it as such. In your personal relationships, dynamics are shifting in ways you're not tracking because you assume people would communicate directly if something was bothering them or changing. But indirect communication is how most people actually operate. And right now, important conversations are happening about your relationships instead of within them. Your partner might be discussing relationship with their friends or family, venting frustrations, seeking advice, getting perspectives that influence how they see you and what they decide about your future together. And what they're hearing might not be neutral or supportive. Friends who don't like you might be reinforcing their doubts. Family who wants them to make different choices might be applying pressure. Therapists might be asking questions that create new frameworks for understanding relationship dynamics. You're being discussed. And those discussions are shaping decisions that will eventually affect you directly. Or friends are having conversations about you among themselves, comparing notes about your behavior, expressing concerns they haven't voiced to you directly, maybe deciding collectively that you're too much or not enough in some way. Friend groups process individuals. And when you're being processed without your knowledge, conclusions get reached that become group consensus before you realize there was even question. Or family members are coordinating about you, making plans that involve you without consulting you, deciding what's best for you without asking what you want, creating expectations or obligations you don't know about yet, but that will be presented as foregone conclusions. This happens particularly around holidays, life events, caregiving situations. Decisions get made in side conversations that you're expected to accept when finally informed. This reflection invites you to consider whose recent behavior suggests they might be operating from conversation or decision you weren't part of. Financially or legally, movements might be occurring that affect your interests, but that you're not monitoring closely enough. If you share finances with partner or family, if you're part of business partnership, if you have joint assets or liabilities, activity could be happening that you're not aware of. Accounts being accessed, purchases being made, debt being incurred, contracts being modified, assets being moved or sold or mortgaged. Not necessarily illegally, maybe within technical bounds of agreements you signed, but without your active knowledge or recent consent because you trusted that if something significant was happening, you'd be consulted. That trust might be misplaced, and by the time you discover what's happened, it might be difficult or impossible to reverse. Or in business context, if you're entrepreneur or independent contractor, competitors might be making moves that affect your market position, copying your methods, undercutting your prices, recruiting your clients or team members, spreading information about you true or false that damages your reputation. While you're focused on delivering excellent service to current clients, your competitive landscape is shifting in ways that will affect future business. This reflection invites you to consider what financial or business situation have you been trusting to maintain itself without active monitoring. The pattern across all these domains is you've been operating from assumption that transparency is default, that people communicate directly when something's wrong, that focusing on your own lane means your lane is protected. But that assumption is naive in a world where most people operate strategically, where indirect communication is norm, where conflicts and competitions and power plays happen constantly without explicit acknowledgement. Your analytical mind is sophisticated about systems and processes, but you need to apply that same analytical capability to human dynamics, to reading rooms, to noticing patterns in behavior that signal shifts in alliances or intentions or perceptions. You're perfectly capable of social awareness. You just haven't been prioritizing it because it feels less important than actual work you're doing. But social and political awareness is part of actual work when you're operating in environments with other humans. What you need to do immediately is expand your awareness from task-focused tunnel vision to peripheral vision that captures what's happening around you while you work. Watch who's talking to whom. Notice when conversations stop when you approach. Pay attention to meetings you're not invited to that you logically should be part of. Track changes in how people respond to you or include you or reference you. And start asking more questions. Not paranoid interrogations, but strategic information gathering. What's your sense of how leadership views my work? Have you heard anything about restructuring plans? Is there something going on with person that I should know about? What's the vibe been lately in conversations I'm not part of? Those questions feel uncomfortable to ask because they acknowledge that you don't know everything that's happening. But asking demonstrates awareness and often prompts people to share information they assumed you already knew or that they weren't sure whether to mention. And information is power, particularly when others have been operating with information advantage while you've been operating blind. This reflection invites you to consider who in your life would most likely tell you truth about what's happening behind your back if you asked directly? Let me address what's probably making you resistant to this message. The sense that paying attention to social dynamics and behind the scenes maneuvering is exhausting, manipulative, or beneath you. You'd rather just focus on doing good work and let results speak for themselves. You'd rather assume best of people than constantly watch for betrayal or positioning. And that's understandable. But it's also strategic weakness in environments where others are actively managing perceptions and relationships while you're just managing tasks. You don't have to become manipulative yourself. You don't have to start playing games, but you do need to be aware that games are being played and that your participation or lack thereof affects outcomes. Awareness doesn't require paranoia, doesn't require assuming everyone is enemy, just requires acknowledging that people have competing interests and that they pursue those interests through means that aren't always transparent to you. Your job is protecting yourself and your interests by staying informed instead of being blindsided. Practical steps for expanding awareness without losing your mind or becoming someone you're not. Schedule weekly check-ins with trusted people in different domains, work colleague, close friend, family member who's connected to family dynamics. Ask explicitly what you might be missing. What's the vibe? What are people saying? What's changing? Pay attention to your GUT. You have instincts about when something's off, even if you can't articulate what. Don't dismiss those instincts as paranoia. Investigate them as data worth examining. Monitor your own emotional responses to interactions. When someone's energy toward you shifts, when conversation feels strangely careful or pointed, when inclusion or exclusion from something doesn't make logical sense, those are signals. And create your own information network. Build relationships with people who are paying attention to social dynamics and who are willing to share observations with you. Not gossipers necessarily, but aware people who can help you see what's happening beyond your immediate focus. You remain in complete control of whether you stay focused solely on tasks or whether you expand awareness to include the human dynamics affecting your success and well-being. The power is yours. It always has been. You may notice reading this has created discomfort or resistance. Maybe feeling that this is asking you to become someone you're not. Maybe anxiety about what you might discover if you start paying closer attention. Maybe frustration that good work isn't actually enough. Whatever you're feeling, honor it. Take what resonates, softly release the rest. Trust yourself. Before we close, I want to ask you something. Do you think focusing on work and trusting people to be transparent is naive, or is it appropriate to expect adults to communicate directly? Drop your honest perspective in the comments. And this, has anything significant ever happened behind your back that you didn't discover until it was too late to address? Virgo, a lot is happening behind your back. In your workplace, in your relationships, in your social circles, in your financial situations, conversations occurring, decisions being made, perceptions being shaped, alliances being formed, all while you're focused on executing responsibilities you take seriously while assuming everyone else is operating with same transparency. You practice not eventually, right now, currently happening. Trust yourself with this. Trust that you can expand awareness without becoming paranoid. Trust that asking questions doesn't make you weak. Trust that protecting your interests is responsible, not selfish. Trust that your work is excellent and you still need to manage perceptions. See you in the next one. And listen, good work creates value, but awareness creates protection. You need both. Your competence makes you valuable. Your awareness makes you unsabotageable. Develop the second as thoroughly as you've developed the first. Stay aware, stay strategic, stay protected. They're moving behind your back. Time to start watching. Take care.